Hello, good morning, good evening, or good night. This is S-carr Shy with Nuenergy Electrical. Thanks again for joining my channel. Today's video is going to be about bids. Now, this video will not be about how to do a bid, how to do takeoffs. This video is about how to write up a bid, how to protect yourself, protect your time, and keep you from working hard for stuff you didn't price. So I'm just going to walk you through the layout of what's the least amount of description you should have wrote up in the bid and things you don't need just right now in your bid. So the word bid, estimate, proposal, quotes, they're kind of a lot of people use them interchangeable, but they do have different meanings. So that will be another video. We can talk about that. But today we're going to be talking about writing up bids. Bids and quotes are very similar in meaning. So on my paperwork that I'm gonna share with you guys, it's gonna have quote on it, but they're very similar. So let's move forward. Thanks again. Make sure you subscribe because I got a ton of videos coming through. And I also want to say Happy New Year. This is the first recording I'm doing of 2023. And I have plenty more to do. So thank you. Thanks for joining and see you soon. So let's jump right into it now that I have the document open. So I'm going to be real transparent. This is a document. Let me plug this computer up because I did just get a low battery warning. Fix that. So I want to be transparent here. This is an actual quote that I prepared on November the 20th for a customer in Irvine, California. But let's go to the top. Up top, you want to identify your document for what it is. So here you see it's a quote. You can also have an invoice. You can label it estimate, statement, contract agreement, or whatever. Whatever you do, it needs to be titled up top. From there, you need to have your company name, your company logo, your company address. A lot of people don't go with their physical address if they don't have a brick and mortar company. They may just use a P.O. box address, or they may just leave the address off. But at the same time, I think it's advantageous to have your address on there in case they need to know where to send a payment to, as well as having um, your web address there, so that way if your customers need to go online and check and see what type of projects you've done that's similar to what this quote um, is prepared as, they can go to your website and see, like, okay, he's done these before, right? But now we're going to be at the part to where we're going to leave a brief description of what this quote is for, right? So this particular one is for EV charges, but basically it's just saying, like, whatever the case may be, Nuenergy Electrical agrees to furnish all materials and labors for the completion of this electrical scope of work, or to completion of this job, per application plans and specifications as itemized below. So skip down to the next line, I kind of hear it says per specification, sections, and drawing. So from here, I just identify, like, where did I get the data to build this price? And that data, and for this particular job, says there are no spec sheets, and I did a job walkthrough with the HOA supervisor or a representative from the HOA, homeowner association, for this condo. So um, in some cases, if I was doing, let's say, if I was doing a tenant build out or a new home, this description would say, based off of plan sheets E15 or E01 through E15, meaning I didn't do a walkthrough, but my whole bid and all of my data to prepare this price came off of these specific spec sheets. Now that would save you if you have to go back and negotiate pricing or whatnot, because in some situations you would have a GC that'll send you some plans that that were just for bid, right? These are the bidding set of plans. Then they go through the whole process of submitting it to the city, and they will have like several revisions. You can have 5 or 6 revisions sometimes more than that. But when it comes to mobilizing for the job and getting contracts solidified, you want to verify that you bid on the last set of plans that was approved. So now that's why this portion here is so important, to identify where did you price out your data for this project. Because if you put here plan sheets E01 through E17, plans dated June the 1st, right? Now it's going into November or January of 2023. You know there were some revisions done. You know that your price don't really reflect the last set of plans. So you need to go back and review the plans again and adjust your numbers accordingly. Type of construction. So here, installation of 5 new chargers and new service for building number 4. And other jobs, it can be, you can put type of construction: new construction, wiring a new home; new construction, wiring up a gas station; tenant improvement, remodification, whatever the case may be. So you want to identify the type of construction you're doing. The next line down is the bid expiration date. So you don't want to just leave this bid open forever and somebody call you 6 months later to a year later. And now you have an increased peak on your wire. The carpet went up, gas went up. If it's an out of town job and you need to get rooms, you need to send several vehicles to do the job, you need to kind of like make sure your price reflects the current cost of materials and travel time for that day. So definitely have an expiration date for your bid, so that way your customers won't expect you to or try to hold you to your number here. Moving forward, we have this big red price, and I want you all to remember that number, big red price, because as we go through the rest of this document, there are certain things in this document that's going to relate back to this big red price and how to protect this price. But before we move forward, I always have my price up top, because a lot of times you will have general contractors or bid managers or whatnot who just collect bids. And a lot of times they just looking for an overall number before they get too deep into what your bid tells them. So they looking for a number to see where you at compared to the other bids they have. So they want to be able to find that number quick. If your number makes sense, then they'll take the time to read out the rest of your bid to see what, if you had everything in there, if you don't have anything in there. So they want to be able to get to that number fast, see that number fast. So if your number was $100,000, $15,000 lower than all the other bids that came in, that tells the person that your bid is trash. I'm not finna dig into it. If your number is 100,000, 50,000 higher than the other 3 or 2 bids that came in, then they're gonna just trash the bid to the side. So you want to have your number visible and quick for somebody to read, so they can determine if they're gonna qualify your bid based off the number, or if they're gonna throw your bid to the side and not even waste their time. All right. So that's the big red number that I always keep right up front on the top of the bid. Moving down, we're going to talk about quote inclusions. We, in this particular portion here, now the write-up to what we're going to talk about on including into our quote. So here I have coordinate with local utility providers, equipment locations, which will be terminated to equipment which will be terminated to their transformers. So that's a matter of me contacting SDG or Edison or any other utility company, Georgia Power if I was in Georgia, and taking the time to get in touch with them, getting them on the job site so they can look at where I'm putting my equipment at and see where they suggest for me to put my equipment at. Coordinate with 811. So once I know where my equipment is going to go, where the utility company has approved for my equipment to go, I'm gonna put some flags out and contact and coordinate with 811 to let them know where I'll be trenching at from which side to the other side my trench will be, so they can identify and mark out any other utilities that can be within my route of trenching. And in some cases, even if you do have a directional boring company, they would still want all of the utilities marked out before they do any boring on that site. So it's good just to go ahead and have that done as soon as you get a sign off on the as soon as you get a sign off on the project. You want to start getting coordinated with 811 and utility company. Build a new 400 amp service. So this bid here, I kind of like designed the service, what size service I'm gonna need based off of the charges that I feel like they're gonna use and what's gonna support my system. How do I plan to build my service? I'm gonna build it on a unistrut system. How big is my trench? It's always advantageous for you to put distances on your scope, so that way if you have some changes in distance, you can still have um, a opportunity to talk to the customer. Say, hey, I quoted 150 foot. We have some changes with designs, and the design change the design changes caused us to go 200 feet or 275 feet. So if you wasn't a good writer and you wasn't documenting this bid good enough to put these measurements in there, you can shoot yourself in the foot when it comes to doing additional work that wasn't priced out in your bid. So do yourself a favor and put and add in your distance that you are quoting for this project, and what type of system you're going to be using, unistrut system, wherever the case you're going to be. Also, I talked about boring holes, so boring 5 holes in the concrete, um, performing all inspections throughout final and commissioning the units. So I'm letting them know, like, hey, I'm gonna be doing inspections. I'll be dealing with the inspectors. I'll be bringing this project all the way through with the inspectors, all the way into getting power to the units. So that is your my job description in a nutshell is right here. That's everything I plan to do for this job. Very detailed to the type of materials I'm gonna use for the most part. Now, some of the materials I didn't describe in there, but we're gonna get down into that in just a little bit as we scroll down below. So here's another important detail to have in your bid. When you switch over from page 2 to page 3, always writing there the quote is continued. This is the next page. This is the next page, because when you get a sign off, you want that last signature page to address like how many pages was compiled in this one bid. So you want to have the depth of the bid on that signature page. This one here is a very important write up to have on your bids, adders. So in some projects with me and some customers I deal with, if they're a specialized contractor and they do only EVs, or they do only billboards, or they do only restaurants, a lot of times they will have their own subs in a lot of different areas, and they will just prefer to use their subs. So for me in those situations, because I'm an electrical contractor, I give an option to say, hey, you can hire your own stripping. So if you look at line number 1 on adder is pretty much the area where it's an area on my bid to where these are additional costs that could come up or you can add to the price above. These line items are not in my price above, but they are adders to be added if we want to put some more stuff in here. So this will save you from having to do things and having to do tasks that you didn't price. I put them down in my adders. Now, installing EV signs and poles. So back to when I was saying some specialized contractors will have different vendors that'll come do it. So on the stripping of parking lots, in some cases, some contractor will say, "Hey, we only use this company here. They do all our stripping for us. They have all our templates already. You don't have to have templates. They're gonna come out and strip it once you get all the charges and whatnot installed, and you move off the project. They'll come strip it. This stripping company could do the signs as well. They may have another sign company that have all their templates and all their signs, and that sign company come do that. In a residential project, if you're doing residential, you can have a customer or a general contractor say, "Hey, I have my lighting supplier that's going to bring my lights." So you'll have adder for your lights, or they may say, "Well, what's the situation? Residential, it could be several different things that you could just leave in the adders and not put it in the above price." Now, this is really advantageous. Out of everything you can put on your bids, this one right here, it's a real good inclusion to add to your bids, because a lot of times it can keep your costs down, right? A lot of ECs, electrical contractors, or any trade M.E.Ps would just like throw a bunch of costs to that overall big red number. So, and what happens is that big red number grows so big, and if you get a contractor or a GC or general who just looking for numbers, you could you can outprice yourself out of a job and not even get an opportunity to talk about your numbers because you added so much in here, right? So if you go back and look at my inclusions, I mean my adders, I have nearly 5 grand in adders here. Now it can grow. It can be a several other items. I can put boring contractor here. I can put sewer locator here. I can this can really grow feet and add costs on certain projects. So let's hypothetically say this 5 grand is a deal breaker, right? And everybody else is in at 29, 26. But I added that 5 grand in here from the adders. And now I'm at what, 34,000, right? So now I'm 5 grand higher. So this is the part two. I had this one philosopher that I like to listen to when it comes to learning about business. I learned from Tony Robinson business mastery course. His name is Keith Cunningham, and Keith Cunningham always say that business is an intellectual sport. So this is where um, business become intellectual, because now, and this is where business becomes a sport, an intellectual sport, is right here when you having to deal with people who only want to look at numbers and trying to figure out how to get an opportunity to discuss your price with a customer, and let your customer understand like why your price is what it is. So if I was to add, we were talking about adders, and if I was to have and just assume that the customer um, wanted me to do the stripping and add the signs and buy the chargers and wherever the case may be, that cost get put in a big red price, and now I may not even have a shot to do the job, because now I'm at 36,000, maybe 40,000, maybe 50,000, and now I'm above all my competition in price. So the sport is to keep this price low. Now I tell you another story. I had a contractor tell me like, "Well, I got a guy who does all my charges for 2,000 per charger, out the door, turnkey, blah 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 blah." So if that was the case, and he had 15 charges, and the contractor I'm competing with, is doing $2,000 a charger, right? I can still sit at the table and negotiate right along with the other electrical contractor, because I can put 30,000 here. I can put 2,000 times 15 to get 30,000, right? Then because I've done that, everything that's outside of my cost installing those chargers would get put right down here in the adder section. So now, bam, okay, I match his price. I'm right there where you want me to be. I'm right here with your other guy. Okay, but here's my adders. Okay, have somebody do the stripping, have somebody install the signs. We're gonna move forward. We're gonna move past that. I think y'all got it. I think I beat the dead horse on that. Quote exclusions. This is by far the number one. And I don't know which one is the number one of any of these items. I think all of these items is the minimum that you need to have in your bid when you're writing up a bid. Quote exclusions. So like adders, the exclusion are things that I know that's not included, right? So let's look at number one. Exclude all items listed in the adder section. So right here under quote exclusions, I'm very clear that these are not included in my costs, these two line items. Number two in my exclusions, EV chargers and pedestal to be purchased by the owner, by other. The other can be the contractor who asked me for this price. Other can be the property owners. The property owners could already have like 10 chargers or 5 chargers that they purchased months ago and they just waiting to get them installed. Chargers possibly can be coming from a utility company for free. So I don't know. I think in this particular project, the EV match, EV Connect is supplying the chargers, so they get a good price on chargers and they want to use their chargers. So I excluded that. Additional work not described above, added by authority having jurisdiction, AHJ. This is this is a real important line. I think that if you don't have this line in here, you could be working for free. You could be spending 10 to 24 labor hours doing work that you didn't price. What is the authority having jurisdiction? The authority having jurisdiction is the code enforcers, the city building department, the electrical inspector, right? So I put that in there because even though I listed out what I price in a job, sometimes you can still get an inspector that'll come out and say, well, in this city here, in the city of here, we do it like this. In the city of here, we want it like this. In the city here, we want concrete. Like, so say if I ran my conduit from the transformer to the new meter base I done, right? And an inspector come out and say, hey, I want concrete poured over the top of your conduit. You can't have conduit in our city unless you can't bury conduit in our city unless you pour concrete on top of the conduit, right? So obviously, if you read what I had up top here, obviously I didn't put concrete on top of the conduit, right? So using that example, and having this line item number 3 in here, right? Now I can go back to my customer and say, hey, we got a change order. What is a change order? Okay, if you don't know what a change order is, I'm gonna do another video on change orders. Change order is a document you use to request and get approval for additional costs on the job based off of changes that was made by the authority having jurisdiction or the contractor or the owner. The owner can come out and say, hey, I want double head pedestals, not single head pedestals, right? And you completed your work. Now you got to take your work back down because the communication was lost between the owner and the EV company. So now you got to create a change order to figure out who's going to pay for the double work, the rework. So, um, so additional work not described above, added by the authority having jurisdiction, not included. All utility fees set up, not included. Concrete cutting, patching of the road and sidewalk, not included. Labor is quoted during business hours, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. This is a real important line as well, just as important just as important as all the other lines. But this one here, a lot of times on jobs, I have seen to um, where the HVAC company don't have equipment there, and now they running behind. As soon as they get the equipment there, the contractor wanna hold you, wanna twist your arm and make you work on the weekends and work at night because they trying to meet a deadline but the HVAC company didn't get the units until yesterday. Right now, your arm is being twisted to work at night and have your guys work 12 and 14 hours. So now having this listed in your uh, exclusions, right? Now you got a fight. Now you got a argument, or you have some type of writing in here to where you can protect yourself and say, "Hey, I had it right here, clear as day. 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. is my working hours." You know, so they should see that now. And now this can create another change order. Okay, you want my guys to work Saturday and Sunday. You want my guys to work out at 3:30. All right, cool. Sign this change order saying you covering my overtime, you covering my downtime, or you covering these additional costs, this labor burden that I have to accrue because the HVAC people was behind. Last but not least is some signatures. You get a signature from your customer, then you can start moving forward. And this signature here is just saying, okay, we accept your quote, right? That gives you the leeway to go ahead and contact those 611 people, start getting the locator, start contacting the utility company there. It gives you the okay to start preparing an agreement, start laying out a payment plan or some type of progress payment options, right? You move forward to the next steps, but it start with getting this signed off. They saying they like your scope of work, they like your price, and you get this signed, and you move forward with, like I said, you move forward with laying out an agreement and getting the contract prepared. Start pulling permits. You know, you did it. It's all done. So, nevertheless, when you go back and watch this video again, just make sure you got a lot of this stuff added into your quote, and just use this and just make sure that you're not going to be working for free. And you know, everybody time is valuable. Everybody got family. Like, if you're going to be not getting paid, you should be sitting at home. All right, well, thanks again. This is once again, thank you. This is S-carr Shy. I appreciate you watching this. I hope this helped. And if you have any questions, just leave a link below. Just leave a message below. Take care. Happy New Year's.